Well, hello and welcome to Chats with Chelsi. Today you're in for a treat. This is our first virtual interview. I am so excited to have a dear friend of mine, someone that I have known for almost a decade now. We met back when we both were living in Jacksonville, Florida. This lady is on the move. She has been all across your television screen. She writes for the Huffington Post. So, ladies, help me welcome Donteacia Seymore.
Thank you for having me. I'm
Thank
really
you so
excited.
much
I'm happy to
for,
be here.
yes, for being here. So let's just dive in. I mean, first
Mhm.
off, you look fabulous.
Thank you, girl. Thank you, thank you, thank you,
You
thank you,
know,
thank you, thank you.
lipstick, hair. I mean,
It's a new look. It's a whole new situation. I just cut my hair back in, I want to say it was September 1st to be
okay.
exact. And I cut my hair in solidarity with my aunt who was diagnosed with brain cancer. And she's cut her hair because she cut her hair in August. We found out, and she said she was cutting her hair because she wanted to at least control what happened to her hair. And so I cut my hair off in solidarity with her because, if you know me, I always had long hair, long weaves, and my hair was pretty long. And so I cut it off. I was like, we're going to do this thing together. So she's still undergoing chemo right now. And so as long as she doesn't have hair, I'm not going to have hair. So that's kind of how that works.
That is just so touching that, you would stand with your aunt during this time and do, and be as brave as to cut your hair because, for, especially for so many black women,
Mhm.
hair is their, truly their shining
It is our
glories.
thing. Yeah. It's a part of our identity. It is.
Which can be good and bad. So, but let's talk about you. You are just fabulous in so many ways. As people Google you, and everyone should Google you and to find out more about you. Um, I feel that you have become known for helping inventors build, fund, and launch their products. Tell us how this journey came about and why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, so what's funny about this is this happened by accident back when I was in politics. I was actually running for city council at the time, and I had this crazy idea to create a fitness mobility apparel, which is basically fitness apparel that allows you to keep your mobile phone on you. So the first product was a fitness glove with a case for your cell phone on the back of his hand, and I was just like, this is a really stupid idea, but I need it for me because I was almost about to lose my phone while running across the bridge. And so I was like, I need it for me. So I'm going to make it for me. And then I made a prototype for me. And my friends who worked out a lot, they wanted a prototype. And so I was like, well, or they wanted a product. And I was like, well, I'll make a product for them. And then it became a thing. So I got like a lot of people asking for it. So I launched a Kickstarter campaign and I said, okay, if I fund this Kickstarter campaign, I'm going to drop out of the city council race. And I was running up against an incumbent. So it was going to be a really tough fight. It was a citywide race. Um,
I remember.
and yeah, it was going to be a really tough race. And I funded the Kickstarter campaign in 3 days and dropped out of the race on Friday. And then he dropped out of the race on Monday. And I was like, that is just divine intervention. Because had he dropped out, had I not funded it so quickly, and had he dropped out and I saw that it was an open seat, I don't know if I would have really gone down this path as hard as I've gone. I probably would have stayed and continued the city council thing, and I'd be, sitting right now in a meeting, a committee meeting, doing something I probably am happy about, but it's not the same kind of life that I have now, right? And
Right.
so that's just kind of how I got into it and had the product company, sold the product company, and people were asking me how to build their products. And it turned into a one-on-one consulting business and eventually turned into a product development company. And so now we help hundreds of inventors build and launch their products.
So you sold the mobile.
Yeah. Yeah. So originally I licensed the patent to a cycling company because they wanted to have a version for themselves. And I really, if I'm being honest, I didn't really love having a product company as
Okay.
much as I loved building the product itself and the whole process behind it. And so they had the license for a year and came back to me and was like, do you really want this company? Because we'd happily buy it from you. because we don't see you doing a whole lot with it. We had just secured a major distribution deal, so it was valuable at the time. But I was just like, I'm over this, right? Like I'm over it. And I didn't want to have a glove company. That was not my big dream.
Right.
And so I sold the company. And then that's when I took off and traveled the world with my daughter.
So tell us about that. I mean, you have been everywhere. I mean, I feel like you were just in Mexico a few weeks ago.
I was. I was in Mexico right up until New Year's Eve. I was in Mexico. I spent 12 days in Mexico. That's like my second home. I go probably every other month now.
Why? Why Mexico?
I love Mexico. It's just, there's something in the air. Well, for starters, the air is different. It literally is different geographically. So the air is different. And then just I feel lighter when I'm there. And I've traveled the world. We did 4 continents, 11 countries, 17 cities while we were traveling. And then I went to Mexico solo. And while my daughter went with her dad for a year because he wanted a year too. And I just kind of became a whole new person.
Mm.
I just became a whole new person. There was something freeing about not having any responsibilities outside of myself and allowing myself to grow and allowing my business to grow without restriction and without having to pick my daughter up at 3 o'clock and take her to soccer practice, and just allowing me to just be me unapologetically has literally changed who I am as a person and as a business owner.
So what would you say were some of those defining moments when you were in Mexico for that year?
So, you go through a dip, right? Because you go through well, what do I do now? Because when your life is pretty much dictated by everyone around you, and then all of a sudden you're by yourself and you're in control and complete control, you have to figure out what that looks like. It's like, what do I really want my day to look like? Because my daughter's back with me now, so my day is completely around her, like her school and all kinds of stuff. But it was like, what do I want my day to look like? Do I want to sleep in? Do I still want to wake up at 5 a.m.? What kind of work do I want to do? Do I want to work poolside, beachside? Do I want to make a lot of money, or do I want to make just enough money to have a really comfortable lifestyle here? So there were a lot of questions that kind of came up in terms of lifestyle, in terms of energy, people that I wanted to be around, even conversations. Like, I don't debate on social media anymore. I used to back when I was in that world. But now, like, if a debate starts on a post that I unfollow my own post. I have a lot of debates on my post and I unfollow. People will not see me comment anymore. And that's because I've unfollowed. And so there was something that I was able to take from there, like this piece, this real serious inner peace, to where it's just like, I'm not letting anything or anyone touch that. And so when I feel overwhelmed here, which is why I went back to Mexico in December, is because I was stressing out. I was having anxiety and all kinds of stuff. And I just booked a flight to Mexico. And I was like, I'm not coming home until I feel better. Like, I was actually originally going to stay a little longer, but then I had the moment.
Okay.
And I was fine. And I booked a flight home the next day. I was like, I'm ready to go home. I got what I came for.
I love how in tune you are with yourself and self-care. And, not everyone can fly themselves to Mexico. Yet I do believe that, in your addressing the importance of self-care and being able to be in tune with yourself and, sharing, anxiety. What would be your tips for young women who are tuning in, who want to focus on themselves, who want to better themselves?
Yeah, so what's so interesting about that? Before I was able to just book a flight to Mexico, I used to go to North Shore Park, which is in Jacksonville. And they have a bench like right along the river. And I would just go and I would just sit out there. And I would just sit there. And I would sit quietly until whatever was wrestling, inside of me calmed down. And so, I guess my advice would be, find your place. Like, your place doesn't have to be Mexico. It's just my place now. It wasn't always my place, right? For me, it used to be walking along the Riverwalk. Sometimes I just needed to walk. Water is almost always a part of my place. Mm-hmm. Like, it's my thing, right? Yeah. So if I can find a place near water to where I can just sit out on the hood of my car. I used to sit out on the hood of my car and just like look over the St. Johns River and just sit there for an hour until I was calm, until I was able to kind of get through whatever was bothering me. And I also support groups. I have an amazing group of female friends and business besties that when things get tough, I don't try to figure it out. I actually just be like, yo, we need to hop on a call. I got some stuff I'm working through. How do we deal with this? And then also being there for others. Believe it or not, like supporting others through their stuff kind of helps you with your stuff.
That's
I
good.
invited two friends out last night for drinks. Both had lost their final grandparent like in the last 3 weeks. And I invited them out for drinks. And then they were just like sharing and crying. And it was just so freeing for them. And it made me realize like just what I have and what I should be grateful for. And then that everyone is hurting, right? I say this all the time. We're all just spirits living in a human experience. And we should be mindful of that when we communicate with one another and when we communicate with ourselves and allow ourselves a little grace, right? Because a lot of times we don't give ourselves enough grace. And so when I have a goal for the quarter and I don't meet it, or I have a goal for the week and I don't meet it, I kind of see if there were some major distractions and how to eliminate those going forward. But then I give myself grace. I'm like,
That's good.
you didn't do it the way you should have done it this week, but we can try again tomorrow, right? And I try to stick to it. I try to make those necessary adjustments. So, I mean, those are some of the things. Find your place, find your tribe, support others, and then give yourself a little grace because you're not going to get it right. And you're actually going to always have something that goes wrong. And so you should give yourself just a little bit of like, it's okay. It's okay.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
What has been your biggest failure? Because you're so successful. So what's been your biggest failure?
Yeah, I got so many. I have so many. So believe it or not, I have a lot of professional failures.
Okay.
Because there were a lot of things that I saw for myself professionally that never happened. That never happened in politics, that never happened with positions that, I held, with goals that I wanted to meet. I have a lot. I mean, I don't really have a biggest failure because I feel like I do a really good job of course correcting. So I believe that if something didn't happen, then that at some point it's going to show up later. And there's going to be a reason why it didn't happen, right? Like there's a catalyst for it. That experience is going to shape me in some way that's going to help me move forward. I remember, and this is a personal story, I remember when I had the first year of the product company and I was just running out of money. I had kind of been scammed out of like $20,000, which is why I do what I do in this industry, because there's so many people that prey on inventors. And I had kind of been scammed out of like $28,000 to be exact. And I had
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And I'm a single parent. So, it was a lot of money. And I had to move out of our townhome and I was staying in a friend's place, and like we came outside one day. I was going to take my daughter to school and the car was gone. And she thought someone had stolen the car. She did. She thought someone had stolen the car. I knew no one had stolen the car, but she thought they did. And I was just like, I had a moment and I was like, how did I get here? Mm-hmm. How did I go from 6-figure contract, successful launch, all these people buying it, to like losing all of this money, losing my car, having to move out of my downtown, condo into like subsidized housing that a friend actually let me stay in. It wasn't even my subsidized housing, right? Like, how did we get here? And it was in that moment that I remember saying, never again. Just never again. Like, no more. We stop now. And everything turned around. I bought a cash car. I didn't get it. I bought a cash car. I put my head down. We had a profitable year. Then the next year we licensed. The next year I sold. I mean, the company was valued at a little over $2 million when we sold it. And so in a 2-year time period, I went from car repossessed to a company valued at $2 million. So, it happens. And it's going to always be okay. So I think that a lot of times we kind of get stuck in the failure. We get stuck in the what didn't go right, that we don't figure out what is the one thing that I need to do today to fix this. And then every day, what is the one thing? Because we focus on like 20,000 tasks. When I get up in the morning, I have a list and I say, what is the one thing that absolutely has to get done today?
So only one thing. So only one thing is your focus.
Because think about it. If I did one thing every day that had to be done by the end of the month, I'd have 30 things done. By the end of the year, I'd have 365 things done. And that's ginormous when it comes to moving anything forward. And I think a lot of times we have these lists and we're intimidated by them, right? And we're like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then you're moving back and forth, you're answering emails, and then the big things never happen. The important things never happen. And then you don't move forward, right? And so I focus on one thing a day. I have 3 things on my list that, like, okay, you need to do these 3 things.
Okay.
I have what I call a kill list, and it's a 21 point list for the whole week that I create on Sunday. And then there's a top bonus, like there's a top priority, and then the other 2. And so I typically get through all 3, but if I don't, that one thing gets done.
That one
every
thing
day.
gets done.
Every day. Yeah.
So, I mean, we've talked about failure, triumph. You just exude this confidence of, I am who I am. I have purpose and I know it. How did that confidence come about? I mean,
So, I was raised in the projects. I grew up in the projects. I lived in a very rough neighborhood, and I saw my mom like going to work every day, 2 jobs, doing what she could. And I was tasked with taking care of my siblings. There's 4 of us at a very early age. And so I didn't really have time to focus on things that didn't work, right? Things that were going wrong. It was like I had to confidently at 12 get on a bus and take my sister and my brothers to wherever we were supposed to go, to church, to school, wherever it was. Like I was tasked with taking care of them at a very young age because my mom was just doing what she had to do to provide for us. And so I think that because I've experienced so much struggle, and I don't think that people actually need this much struggle to be successful and confident, but because I have, and that's just my story, I just feel like if I can survive my childhood and I can survive my adolescence, and I can survive being a single parent for, as long as I was with no money, then I can survive anything. You can take every dime I have right now and I can rebuild it in the next 30 days. And so it's just at some point, once you know how to do it, you know how to do it. And so like the confidence I have now comes from just like knowing when you find that sweet spot, you're golden. And so I just found my sweet spot. But I'm 39. So I didn't find it like when I was 20, like, the Zuckerbergs of the world. It took me a while. I was like 37, 36-ish, 35. So, and then even then I had a dip for a little bit. And then I just recently refound my voice last month. Right. And so because we change at different levels, we change. And my coach, she told me, I rehired my coach from 3 years ago or 4 years ago. And she said to me, she's so expensive now. Geez. And she said to me, she obviously has leveled up also. And so she said to me, she's like, you're a completely different person than you were 4 years ago. She's like, you're night and day.
Coach, a career coach?
Business coach. Yeah.
Business coach. Okay.
Yep. And she's like, you are night and day who you were then and who you are today. And I am. Like, I know it. Like, I can feel it. I can sense it. And so I think that there's also a lesson in knowing that we're not going to be the same person. Chelsi, you're completely different than you were 9 years ago. Like, just night and day. Right? And so I think that's where grace comes in.
Right.
Knowing that whatever it is right now, it can get better, and it will get better if you allow it to, and if you walk into that. And so, my confidence just comes from knowing that it's going to be okay. It's always going to be okay. There are times where you're like, oh my God, how am I going to pay this bill? And then you worry about it and you try to find a solution. And then 10 days later, it's still not paid. But 10 days later, your lights are still on. It's always something, right? We always feel this urgency to fix something and to correct something and to not slowly walk into the solution. I've learned how to slow dance into a solution. And I think that's the biggest change. Because I used to get really nervous and be like, what am I going to do? I have to have this done in 2 days, 48 hours. I need to find a solution. And then 5 days later, I still haven't found a solution, but the problem is not any worse. It's not any better, but it's not any worse. Right. And I remember I would say to myself 2 weeks later, had I just taken my time 2 weeks ago, I would have had these 2 weeks where I could have done something and planned out something much better than what I was trying to do in these 24-hour spurts of desperation. And so I always tell people, never make a decision from a place of deficit.
That's good. That's really
good. Never make a decision from a place of deficit. Calm your mind. Calm your mind. Find like your abundance. And I don't want to sound very new agey, but find like that fullness that you need to feel, and think about, if I wasn't in this situation right now, what would the solution be? And then try to get as close to that as possible. It's a whole mindset shift.
It really is. And I think something that may be a mindset shift for some of the ladies who are watching is the idea of a business coach and you paying someone. Tell us how the importance of a business coach and why you would recommend it for young entrepreneurs.
So, I am a person who believes in, investing in themselves. Like, I've always believed in it. I spent over $100,000 going to college. I got 3 degrees and I don't use any of them, And so,
I know that.
I got exactly 6 figures. And so I will say this. There's, because of my degrees, political science, master's in public administration, and I have a master's in conflict analysis and resolution. I think that last one was probably the golden one.
Okay.
Like, because that one is the one that taught me temperament and patience. And so I feel like I got a very expensive lesson in how to navigate relationships, poli-sci, how to navigate management with the MPA, and then how to manage or navigate emotions with the conflict degree. And so it was very, very expensive, those lessons. But that taught me that there's value in learning and paying someone to tell you. And I didn't have anyone the first year of my business, and I was about to quit. I was like, I lost all this money. I don't know what's going on. And then I saw that there was a program. It was actually a free program, Jack's Bridges in Jacksonville, where I joined that program, and just the mentoring in that program completely changed my life, right? Changed the business. And from there on out, I was like, I'm never doing it on my own again. Like, I'm never, ever, ever doing it on my own again. In fact, what happened was I was about to quit, and I got an email I was on this VC's email list. And he sent out an email, and he was like, here's the reason your business is failing or has failed. Mm-hmm. And I opened it up, and it said, you didn't ask for help.
Ooh.
It said you didn't ask for help. So, you click on the link because it goes to the articles. I'm like, oh, there's more.
Right.
Whole article. You didn't ask for help. Yeah. And I said, you know what? I didn't ask for help. I didn't look for someone to help me. Like, I did not ask for help. And then I went to LinkedIn, and at the very top was the Jack's Bridges application. It was the very last day to apply. And I applied. And then the guy, Carlton, who runs the program, actually became my mentor. And then I was like, I need to have someone in my life all the time telling me what to do. And so I spent over $100,000 in mentorships and programs. But I made a lot of money. So I see the value in skipping the mistakes. Right?
Right.
Yeah. It's just a shortcut. You're just paying for a shortcut. And support and accountability.
And how does a young entrepreneur go about finding the best business coach for them?
So, we're actually in a day and age where everybody's a business coach.
That's why I'm asking. It's like,
Yeah, it's a very slippery slope. So I personally don't work with anyone who hasn't done what I'm trying to do.
That's good. That's a great benchmark.
Yeah, like, you have to have done it. If you haven't done it, you can't show me how to do it. Like, you just can't, right? And so I don't work with people who haven't done what I'm trying to do. And that's the first thing. Also, synergy. Like, how does this person make me feel? You can push me and not make me feel like crap. Because there's a lot of people who will try to make you feel like crap, to tap into something in you, that's not healthy, right? And there are a lot of business coaches who have not dealt with their own traumas. Ooh. Trying to teach people how to work through theirs, right? And so for me, it's about energy. It's like, does this person seem whole? Because if you don't seem whole, can't trust you with my life, my money, my mind, none of that, right? So I actually interview business coaches. Like I'm writing a check. I interview them. I ask them questions because a lot of them ask you questions right before they sell you into their program or their package. But I'm like, I have a list of questions, and I'm like, what is your capacity to take on, this project or to take me on? Like, what can I expect from you as a coach? Is this mostly mental work? Is this mostly like professional benchmarks? Like, what are your expectations of the communication styles? I need to know. I need to know what's going on with you. Like, when was the last time you went on a retreat or you did some self-care?
You asked them that.
I do. Now, I didn't have to ask this one because I know when she does self-care because she posts about it. She's like, going out to Italy for a week to go clear my head. But yeah, I asked, when was the last time you did some self-care? Because if you're running ragged and you are, just ripping at the seams, you're not going to be 100 when it comes to dealing with me. And at this level, the price tag is just too high.
I mean, that's real. That's real. What would so you have, in terms of your businesses, you have Product Yard, Seymore Group, and then you also host the Founders Brunch. Tell us about your two businesses and then the Founders Brunch. I'm really interested in hearing more about that.
So, Founders Brunch is actually something I did before I left the country and started traveling. And I haven't started it back up yet, but it was my version of Founders Therapy. Because I felt like there was not enough conversation around healthy living as entrepreneurs. And so I would have a brunch and people had questions that they had to answer. They had to apply to come to the brunch. And I would sit people at the table who would solve the other person's pain point. I'm like, what's hurting you in your business? What's hurting you in your personal life? And they would answer the question. And then I would make sure that the people they were sitting at the table with filled that solution. And then we would have questions in the middle of the table specifically for that table because I knew that was the way to bring out the conversation around those pain points. So they would leave feeling like they had a community, like they had answers to their problems, feeling whole, knowing that they're not the only one because they got pretty emotional. And but I left. It's really hard to organize something when you're like not in one place for any given time. But I do want to start that back up. Probably not this year because this year is just ridiculous. But I do want to start that back up. I have a magazine coming out. I have my podcast relaunch. I have my company, which is growing exponentially. I have some partnerships with some television celebrities. We have reality TV pilot coming out. There's a lot happening.
That's so exciting.
It's probably not going to happen in 2019. But I do want to restart Founders Brunch. Yep.
So, for those upcoming projects, are there any that you can expand on anymore and give us some insights?
So I'll talk about the magazine. So I'm going to launch a magazine in the second quarter, and it's called Dawn, just like the first part of my name. But the premise behind it is actually to highlight women business executives who are killing it around the globe. Because, the Dons. So it's like, these are your women bosses. That's what Dawn means apparently in in certain communities, and it's just a play on my name, right? So it's like my play on the Oprah magazine, but it's specifically to highlight women business leaders around the globe, like some people you don't normally hear about that are out here killing it, and to just highlight them. So that's coming out in the second quarter. Now, the Product Yard is actually my product development company, and it's actually my product development tech company.
Okay.
So we have a SaaS platform that we use in-house right now to help inventors locate the right engineers, designers, manufacturers to build their products. And eventually, hopefully by end of year, we'll launch it to the general public. So anyone who has an idea for an invention can kind of log on, input some information, and it'll spit out like who you need to work with. And then we will facilitate that through the platform. So that's the goal for that. Seymore Solutions is just the consulting arm. And so that's our bread and butter. That's what we do. We consult with inventors on how to build, fund, and launch their products, but they're internally using the platform.
Ah, okay.
Yep. So that they're our beta group basically. So they're internally using the platform. And then eventually it'll just all be the product yard. So it'll all kind of just migrate into the product yard. The magazine is a pet project. It's my passion project because I love celebrating women. So it's my
Me as
passion project.
well, which is why you're
Yes.
here on Chats with
Yes.
Chelsi, all
Yes.
about
Yes.
women.
Yes. So I love that. But those are the three: product yard, founders, Brunch, Seymore Solutions. Those are the three. I'm really looking forward to it. We have a lot of projects. Startup week is next. It's the first week of February here in Tampa, and I am doing the first ever inventor track. So we
Ah,
got
congratulations.
thank you. So we have 9 sessions, 9 workshops where I'm teaching people how to build products, but it'll be me and my friends in the industry. And this is the first one they've had. They have over 7,000 people come, and they've never had someone who focuses on physical products, which is insane to me. But I'm excited about that. Yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much the big things. Other than that, it's just, my consulting business, our program Before the Tank. And that's because everyone wants to get on Shark Tank. No one knows how. And so we kind of make sure they have a product and make sure they're ready to pitch. And that, we also have a partnership with one of the sharks. So they get to skip the line.
Oh, wow. I did
And
not know that.
We do. We have a partnership with Kevin Harrington. He's the original shark on Shark Tank.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have quarterly masterminds with him. And they get in front of him and they can pitch to him. And he can say, hey, let's get you on Acid on TV. Or let's get you on HSN with his company. And we go from there. So I tell people all the time, who can bring you a shark? I can bring you a shark. When you're on Shark Tank, I can bring you a shark.
Ooh.
So yeah.
I'm just learning so much. And so in this, as you are preparing for 2019 and as young women, older women are looking and they're like, oh man, these are some of the things that I've always wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
What's your advice to them on getting into funding, building, launching their product, to getting on Shark Tank, to starting the magazine or the podcast? What is your advice to them?
Start. Like legitimately, I think a lot of times we spend a lot of time thinking about what we should do, what it should look like. A lot of time planning. I'm sure there are women out there that are watching this that have notebooks full of strategy on how they're going to get this thing done. And I spend one day on strategy, just one.
Okay.
And then on day 2, I do something on the list. I just start, right? Like when I started my podcast, I didn't have a mic. I didn't have anything. I had some headphones and I had a laptop and I had Zoom. Like that's what I had. And the first one was with my former business coach, Deidre, and now current again, was with her. She just happened to be in Medellin where I was at. And so we just sat around at a conference table and recorded the first podcast. It sounded horrible. There was no opening music. There was no anything, right? And then eventually we had all this stuff and all this production. But you just have to start. Like with my products, I didn't know what I was doing. So I went to the internet, which I don't advise people to do now because it's just so much junk out there.
Right.
But 5 years ago, it wasn't as inundated with junk as it is now. But I went out there and I just looked. But I think the biggest thing people don't do is they don't send the email. Everyone right now has an email that they say they're going to send that they've been supposed to send for a year now. And I think my biggest
you got me thinking about some things.
I always send the email. And Fridays for me is follow-up Friday. So I think the biggest reason I'm successful is that my follow-up is stronger than 99% of the people out there. Like my follow-up is just ridiculous.
So
like
will you keep following up? I mean, like, how
yes.
did you meet Kevin? As you're talking about follow-up and sending that email. I mean, how did you get connected to, your network is just phenomenal.
Yeah. So for one, it's my network, a lot of which I paid to be a part of, right?
Ah, okay.
I did, by joining certain masterminds and certain organizations. Kevin, and I also interviewed Seth Godin on my podcast. He's like the father of modern day marketing. And people say all the time, how did you get Seth? So Seth actually says on his blog, which is the one thing that he does, this is my email address, and I respond to them. I emailed Seth for about 2 years before I actually started the podcast. I just emailed him one day and I was like, you are awesome. Your content is awesome. Thank you for being awesome. And then he replied. And then during the holidays, I said, just wanted to tell you happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Hope you and the wife and the kids are having a great time. Yada, yada, yada. Right? I was like, one day we're going to be great friends. That's what I said.
Really? In your email?
Yes. And so for like 2 years, like once every quarter, I would email Seth. So when it came time for me to do my podcast and I emailed him, his first response was no. Those dates, because I gave him dates, those dates don't work for him. And so I replied back, well, what dates do work for you? And he said, I can do this Friday. Right? And so a lot of people would have took that no, and they would have been like, no. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Whereas I don't stop at no. You got to give me at least 5 no's before I accept it. I need at least 5 because people typically flip on the third one. They typically flip. So you got to give me at least 5. There's a really good book called 100 Days of No. It's like the rejection method. There's a book that a guy wrote where he asked for something every day for 100 days to inoculate himself from rejection. Wow. Like he wanted to be told no so much that it no longer bothered him. Right.
I need to read that.
Yeah, I can't think of the name. I'll send it to you so you can, put that in the notes for your people. But that book was actually something pivotal for me. And it was something my coach had me read because I'm not afraid of no. I'm afraid of a lot of stuff. No is not one of them. Like, you gonna tell me no? Okay. You gotta tell me no 5 times.
5 times.
5 times. You gotta tell me no 5 times for me to go away. Unless you're a guy, obviously. But you gotta tell me no. You gotta tell me no 5 times. But the biggest thing is the follow-up. Like, you'll start a conversation. I was introduced to Kevin through a friend and made a warm intro over email. And there was some back and forth about some talking, some dates and this and that. And then months went by because he went to Brazil and I moved to Tampa. And another thing, I moved to Tampa because it made business sense.
Okay.
Like this was completely a data-driven decision. It is the consumer product hub of the U.S. HSN, QVC, Action on TV is here. All of the television personalities live here. You have a shark who lives here. You have Sarah Blakely who lives out in Clearwater. So all of these people in the industry, Forbes, Raleigh, they all live in this area. And so I moved to a place that would be easy. So if I said, hey, you want to grab a coffee or can I come by the office? It's not a whole, let me book a flight. It's like, oh, he's like, I'm going to be in the studio today at 11. Can you come by? Sure.
Wow.
Right. But I kept emailing him. I kept emailing him until we finally nailed down a time. And then we had a conversation and then multiple conversations. And then we met up and hung out. And now we're business partners and friends. And I've only been in Tampa for 9 months.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So follow up. So I mean,
send the email.
I mean, you have given us so many nuggets today. So we should be focused on one thing a day. We may have some other things, but one thing we want to get done. We need to become immune to no. Follow up. And then one of the things that you said earlier that resonated with me was just giving ourselves grace. Because in today's, for me at least, I can speak for me, in the world we live in today with social media and what seems to be fast fame or fast, prosperity, it can be a challenge to stay focused on, to stay your course when it seems like everyone else is moving past you, but to give yourself grace of, this is where I am. I have where I want to be. And if I don't necessarily finish everything I want today, it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay. It's always going to be okay. It's always going to be okay. Right? Like Oprah said that. She said there was a question she was asked at an event and she would say, what would you tell your 20-year-old self? And she said, I would tell her it's going to be okay. It's always going to be okay. And, that resonated with me because every time something got really, really bad, and that was often in the beginning, in the end, things were better. Like I had a better car, I had a better house, I had a better life. Like things were always better afterwards. Like there's been, in my experience, there's been no time where I've lost something and I've gotten less in return. Right. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that once I realized that pattern, now when something happens, I'm like, oh, something amazing is about to happen. I'm setting myself up for something awesome, right? And that energy vibrates out there, and then something amazing happens because the energy is just there. So, you know, it's gonna be okay.
It's gonna
And
be
it's
okay.
and it's going to be better. It's gonna be better than what you lost.
Well, I can't say thank you enough for sharing your journey. As always, being honest and transparent and just giving us some insights on, how we can live this amazing life like you.
Yes.
And so thank you so much for being on today. Tell those who are watching how they can follow you, get in touch with you if they have
Okay.
this invention or whatever it is, if they want to connect with you.
Sure. So there's several ways. You can follow me on Facebook. So all of my monikers, because my mom was creative with my name, all of my monikers are at Donteacia. Like it's at Donteacia. So it's facebook.com Donteacia, Instagram Donteacia. And even my email address is Donteacia at DonteaciaSeymore.com. So if you have an idea for an invention and you want to talk to a member of the team, you can either email me or you can actually just go to the link and schedule a call, and we'll hop on a call with you and talk about your idea. And that's at lifebeforethetank.com/talk. And that's it. So there's all those wonderful ways to do that. If you follow me on Facebook, we have a Facebook group and you can join the group. It's Build, Fund, and Launch Your Awesome Invention. And there's a lot of tips in there on how to bring your invention to life. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. On Instagram, I'm typically just stunting. I'm just stunting for the gram. No real work is getting done. It's just all rooftop pool shots and beach shots.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
That's all it is, basically.
Yeah, it's nothing wrong with that. You're showing us a different part of the journey.
Yep. Yes. The
Well,
leisurely part.
awesome. Thank you so much, and I hope that you have a great day. Ladies, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you follow her on all her social media platforms. And if you have an idea and invention, go to lifebeforethetank.com. Have a great one, ladies.